talk about insecurities. How do you identify your insecurity and how do you deal with it? What makes you feel unloved? What makes you feel inadequate? What makes you feel like you don't deserve good things out of life? What makes you feel like you don't deserve that job? When you sit down and you discover the answer to those questions, you will have discovered your insecurity. And some of you don't even need to answer those questions because you already know what your biggest insecurity is. And your problem is, how do you move past it? How do you move that constant self-doubt, that constant noise, that constant voice in your head telling you that you are not good enough, you're not pretty enough? How do you move past that insecurity and step out into an area of confidence? That is the conversation we're going to have today. And let me start by saying this: no matter how bad you think you have it, someone has it worse. And also, everyone is going through the same thing that you're going through. Even the people that you think are the prettiest, are the smartest, are the richest, they have things that they struggle with in their own personal life. The only difference between people is how do we navigate our insecurities. Some people focus all their energy on their attention on how not good enough they are, how ugly they are, how much they don't like their body. They just invest so much energy into that part that they like, and it just swallows them whole, and they just wallow in depression and never amount to anything. And other people look at that source of discomfort, that insecurity, weaponize it and go after their dreams. So how do you make a distinction between those two reactions? How do you pick a valuable reaction? How do you address your insecurities in a way that actually serves you and sets you on a path to achieving your dreams? Okay? And me, I also have my own insecurities. I was actually insecure about recording this video, but here I am working through my insecurities and showing you that it's possible and you can do it too. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Petronella Mnenja. I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I'm a consultant. My book, From Goko to Oxford, The Girl Who Dared to Dream, is available on Amazon. Please do get a copy. And if this is your first time watching me, don't forget to subscribe. And if it is the second, third, whatever time coming, it's so good to have you. Let's have the conversation going. So today we are going to talk about insecurities, okay? And before we start talking about ways of dealing with your insecurities, let's have a brief conversation about the types of insecurities that people have, okay? I'm just going to name a few, the most common ones. The first one is insecurities in relationships. And that is when you feel inadequate. That is when you feel unworthy of love. And if your partner does something bad or something that is horrendously disrespectful, a part of you just takes it in because you think that you deserve it. You think that you are not worthy their love. You think that because you're inherently unworthy. It's just that feeling, that belief that you were not good enough. You are not good enough for the person that you have in your life. And this person, instead of thinking that they are lucky to have you, you actually look at them as if you are the lucky one. And when the actual thing should be both of you are lucky to have each other. But because you obsess so much on how you think that you are inadequate and how you think that you're not good enough for them, which just makes you feel insecure and a person who needs constant assurances. And this doesn't serve you in building your relationships and in giving and taking what you want. So that is the first one. It's that insecurity in relationships. The second one is social insecurity. And this one is quite broad because it might be you are scared of speaking in public. You think that people might not understand you. You think that people might not get your jokes. You think that people might not react well to what you say. You feel like you're not audible enough, or you haven't thought through your ideas, or you don't have the right look. It's that constant fear of being inadequate in social situations. And it ends up it stops you from presenting your ideas even at work. It stops you from presenting your ideas even at your house. It stops you from being a social butterfly and meeting people and building friendships and relationships. And it's one of the, I think it's one of the most common ones that people have, that anxiety of, am I good enough in a social setting? And the third example of insecurity is body image insecurity. And this is where you obsess about how you don't like your body. And this is layered. So the first part could be you just don't like your whole body. So maybe it's your weight, maybe it's you have scars, maybe you think you're too slim, maybe you think, so the first one is just like overall just disapproving, it's just overall just dissatisfaction with your body. And the second part of it is obsession with one part of your body. So you might not have any problem with the rest of your body, but you don't like your nose. So you are so insecure about your nose, or you're so insecure about your eyes, or you're insecure about your belly, or you're insecure about your boobs if you're a woman. So it's that thing where instead of just having like a wholesome dislike of your body, you zero in on that particular thing, and it makes you don't wear clothes that you like because you don't think your legs will look good in them. So you just limit the options that you can have, be it with dressing, be it with anything, because you feel like you won't look good enough. And I think that one is also pretty common as well. And another example is job insecurity, and this is where you feel like you are not good enough for your job. I think most people struggle with imposter syndrome. Do you know, I think this is slightly related to that, because when I remember when I first got to Oxford, I had this constant nagging in my head. I was always thinking, oh, maybe I'm not good enough, maybe I'm not smart enough, maybe I shouldn't be here. And sometimes you carry that into the workspace. You feel like you're not good enough, you feel like you're not smart enough, you wonder how you got that job, and it actually minimizes your potential. It actually stifles the growth. It actually stops you from achieving your potential, because you would want to say something in a meeting, and then that voice in your head is like, shut up, no one's going to listen to you anyway, no one's going to listen to you anyway, no one's going to listen to you anyway. And it will just stop you from contributing and just being fully able to express yourself in your job and actually get the benefits of it. So, and then there is another one. Okay, so I'm going to stop there, but I think the ones that I've mentioned are like the most common ones. The other one is survival insecurity, and I think this comes from a place of lack. So if you're someone who grew up without not having enough food, not having enough resources, not having enough material things that you needed or that you think that you might have needed, it might have a way of affecting your self-esteem, affecting how you feel about yourself, because you were constantly reminded of where you came from. You look at your clothes and your clothes are not good enough compared to your colleagues. You look at the food that you have in your lunchbox and it's not as enticing as the next person. So it's that survival insecurity that is produced mostly by lack, when we don't have access to resources, when we don't have access to the things that we need. And that affects how you feel about yourself and how you relate to other people. Do you know? Okay, we're almost at the 9-minute mark and I'm still brainstorming the types of insecurities. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about two things today in this video of two things to think about in dealing with your insecurities, and then I'll do a part 2 where I exhaustively go through the other things that that you can think about when you're trying to work through insecurities. So I know that when I have spoken about those things, you've actually picked one for yourself. You actually had one where you're like, oh yeah, that's me. Maybe you don't have issues with your body, but you have issues with your competence. You feel like, I'm not good enough at my job. Or maybe you have no problems at your job, but you struggle in your relationship. You feel like you're not good enough. Maybe you don't have problems in your... So it's some people will experience all of these insecurities together, and some people will experience one. But no matter you're expecting one, no matter you're experiencing one or you're experiencing all of them, we all struggle with insecurities in one way or another. And you have to develop healthy ways of working through it. Otherwise, it will just leave you unfulfilled and quite frankly unhappy. So the first thing to think about when dealing with insecurities is practice self-compassion. And this is the starting step to self-love. So when we talk about self-compassion, it's, do you know how you feel when you see someone who is homeless? When you see someone who is struggling, who is sick in the hospital, or when you see someone who doesn't have food or who doesn't have good clothes, there is this thing in you that just looks at them and your heart breaks for them. You look at them and you think, oh my God, if I had the resources, I would give this person. If I had the money, I would help this person. If I had more, I would give them. That feeling, that emotion that you have for a complete stranger that you don't even know, you need to stop and turn it towards yourself. So have compassion with yourself and actually don't judge yourself too harshly, okay? Don't feel insecure to be in that relationship. Don't allow anyone to treat you like you are not worth it. Don't allow anyone to make you feel bad about yourself. Show yourself some compassion. Look at yourself and see all the good things that you have done. Look at yourself and see all the times you've worked hard to become the person that you are. Look at yourself and see all the things that you have put into becoming that person that you are today. Look at yourself and see all those things and practice compassion for yourself. Feel for yourself. You are a good human being. You give your best. You give your best. You try your best. You show up. You show up. You are consistent. You do your best. That has to be good enough. So the first step is, before we talk of all the other things, before we talk of all the other complicated things, the first one is have compassion for yourself. The same way you feel for a stranger that you've met, feel that way for yourself. And when you start having compassion for yourself and you see your humanity, your flaws, your mistakes, and how it's all very normal, this will lead you into the second step, which is self-love. And I'm not talking about the self-love that is narcissistic and rooted in you justifying all of your nonsense because you don't want people to call you out. I'm talking about a self-love that recognizes your strengths and how you can improve them, but that also recognizes your weaknesses and how you can work through them. So love yourself enough to be honest with yourself and to tell yourself that, you know what, this is something that you just cannot do. This is something that you can work through and achieve, and this is something that you just can never do. You can never have that body that you want. You can never have that nose that you want. You can never get this person to treat you right because it's not you, it's them. So when you love yourself, you start being honest with the latitude that you can go and the things that you can realistically change and have in your life in a way that is less judgmental, that is not harsh, that actually puts you first. Okay, so practice those two things, self-compassion and self-love. And when you learn how to do those two things, you realize that all the other steps become easier and easier, and you can navigate through your insecurities in a healthier way, in a way that builds you up, in a way that enables you to grow. Okay guys, this video is already too long at this point, so I'm going to stop here and do a part 2 video where I talk about more ways of dealing with your insecurities, and hopefully we'll get to a point where you'll be able to say, okay, I fully know what I struggle with and I now know what I can do to work through it. So until next week guys, take care and let me know what you think in the comments, and also suggest some topics that you would want me to talk about so that we keep the conversation going.